September 15, 2004.
And all of a sudden, in a 5-5 game, there was the bullpen and the crowd getting into it.
A major league player is seen attacking fans in a combustible atmosphere.
The bullpens are right on top of right where the fans are, so I'm surprised there hasn't been more incidents before this one.
At many parks, fans can literally reach out and touch the players in the bullpen.
People can see our face, you can see our emotion, we can see theirs.
But that proximity can bring problems.
Seems like there's a little bit more, I guess, venom, for lack of a better word.
There can be conduct on the part of a fan, abusive conduct.
They curse you from your dead grandmother to your unborn children.
Tonight outside the lines are major league bullpens too close for comfort.
And now, reporting for Outside the Lines, Bob Lee.
When baseball needed to reconnect fans to players, Cal Ripken literally reached across the wall and did just that. Monday night in Oakland, a moment as horrible as Ripken's was uplifting. Rangers reliever Frank Francisco, in the midst of a confrontation with fans by the Texas bullpen, heaved a chair, striking two fans and breaking a woman's nose. Francisco will likely face criminal charges and heavy discipline from Major League Baseball, while players wonder if the push to put fans close to the game has reached a tipping point.
And all of a sudden, in a 5-5 game, there was the bullpen and the crowd getting into it.
It ranks among the ugliest scenes in our baseball memory. The conduct, indefensible, and swift justice, criminal, civil, and baseballs at the ready. Regardless of what precipitated the incident, it occurred because of that first law of baseball real estate, location. A bullpen placing players directly next to fans. In this new age of cozy, throwback, fan-friendly parks, players have very personal and vivid rankings of the worst bullpens in the game.
The worst. Baltimore was pretty bad.
Cleveland, by far. You know, Boston has gotten pretty bad over the years.
The one that comes to mind the most is maybe Philadelphia.
From our experience, it's Chicago, just because it's the fans are right there.
Seattle's got access, Philly's got access, Fenway is pretty much right on top.
You know, in Boston, my gosh, you warm up, they're 2 feet right behind you.
The Mets was always bad.
Oakland's always been a rough one, from what I understand. Real tough. One of the toughest.
Oakland is an older stadium with bullpens along the foul lines. The new parks that are part of the baseball building boom place a premium on seating fans on top of the action, recalling the design of jewels such as Wrigley and Fenway. And that, say players, can cause problems.
We always focus on the players crossing the line, and nobody condones what he did. But I think with the way the ballparks are constructed and the so-called fan-friendly environment with the visiting bullpens, they've made it very difficult for players to sustain when fans cross the line.
You go around the country and the bullpens are right on top of right where the fans are, so I'm surprised there hasn't been more incidents before this one.
Most often cited is the new Philadelphia ballpark. There the bullpens are tiered. Originally, the Phillies were in the top pen, but after their players were heckled during the first 2 stadium opening exhibitions, visiting teams were given that bullpen.
You have fans on 3 sides, you even have fans in front of you.
The visiting bullpen is right there, and the fans lean over, and they're you know, literally 5 feet away from you.
Proximity to pens. It's a feature in many new parks. In San Francisco, the bullpens are down the foul lines, with one located near a major pedestrian entrance to the stadium. Seattle's bullpens are in the outfield, but adjacent to a food court and a bar with viewing knotholes cut in the wall. In San Diego's new stadium, the Padres warm up beyond the outfield fence, but the visitors are right next to field seats. The trend is towards a familiarity that some players worry breeds bad behavior.
It seems like there's a little bit more, I guess, venom, for lack of a better word, across the board in ballparks now.
There can be conduct on the part of a fan, abusive conduct, which I'm not sure I can accurately specify tonight or describe. You know, it's like pornography, I guess. You're supposed to know it when you see it.
Several recent incidents were clearly over the line. 4 years ago at Wrigley Field, a fan reached into the bullpen and punched Chad Kreuter of the Dodgers and stole his hat. Players and coaches went into the stands. 16 players and 3 coaches were given suspensions, many of which were later overturned.
And 2 guys just came out of the stands and jumped all over Tom Gamboa.
2 years ago, Royals first base coach Tom Gamboa was attacked in Chicago by a man and his teenage son.
Now here comes a fan out on the field tackling the umpire.
And last season, umpire Laz Diaz was assaulted by a fan, also at the White Sox park. More subjective, however, is the question of what level of verbal abuse players, especially those in bullpens, must accept from fans mere feet away.
They curse you from your dead grandmother to your unborn children. I mean, you have guys reading your bio, you know, when you were born, how many family members you have, and they start saying things about your kids, and they start saying things about your wife, and it just gets so crazy out there that, you know, you can see why a guy would snap.
They got a right to say things, but, you know, to verbally abuse somebody and stuff like that, I don't think it's, you know, we don't go to their work and verbally abuse them because they wouldn't be able to take it. We can come up with some pretty good, you know, sayings ourselves, but, you know, as a professional, we try to act professional and just let it go in one ear and out the other, but sometimes it's tough.
David Wells remembers an emotional night warming up for the Yankees in the bullpen in Cleveland.
My mom passed away, and I'm in the bullpen warming up, and, you know, you got these 2 drunk dudes just start, you know, chirping, and then they started talking about my mom, and before you know it, I had the whole section in there around the bullpen talking about my mom, you know, and it bothered me. I mean, I almost broke down.
If the fans are too close to the bullpens, the obvious answer would be to move the bullpens. After all, batters regularly use hitting cages inside that fans never see.
I know in Japan, a lot of the ballparks have their bullpens underneath the stands, and that's where they warm up to come in and start the game.
But when the Yankees opened this season in Japan, starter Mike Mussina said he felt disconnected from the game, warming up away from the field and the fans. Would moving the bullpens away from the fans help the game?
I don't think so, because I think that's one of the things that makes this sport great. I mean, we don't have helmets on. We're not 7 foot. You know, people can see our face. You can see our emotion. We can see theirs, and that's one of the things that makes this sport great.
In Oakland, prosecutors will gather more information before deciding whether to indeed prosecute Texas reliever Frank Francisco. He posted bail after being arrested on suspicion of aggravated battery following Monday night's game. The fan whose wife had her nose broken admits to heckling the Rangers, but he says in a straightforward manner, saying, for example, "So which one of you losers is going to blow this thing tonight?" Other reports say the heckling was personal, abusive, and by one account involved a racial slur. The woman, Jennifer Bueno, says she is planning a civil suit over her injury. One man who understands the volatility of fans near the bullpen is John Rocker. Several years ago, when he was targeted by fans, especially in New York City, bullpen security was stepped up, and at one point a canopy was placed over the Braves bullpen at Shea Stadium to protect players from any objects that might be thrown. John Rocker is rehabbing following surgery. He hopes to return to the major leagues. Ron Cook is a columnist with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette in a town where the Pirates have a brand new baseball park. And Jim Bowden spent 10.5 years as general manager of the Cincinnati Reds, and in that time he was involved with the design for the Reds' new park. Gentlemen, welcome all. John, what is the atmosphere like in its worst moments between fans near the bullpen and guys in the bullpen in some of these ballparks where you're really on top of each other?
Well, Bob, honestly, you know, when you're at a ballpark, you know, there's several I can name around the league where literally a fan is nothing but a concrete wall away from you, and as you're sitting there trying to watch the game and focus and stay alert and stay attentive to the game and that kind of thing. Most times, honestly, it's not too bad. You know, when you're Wrigley Field, that kind of thing. You know, you tend to carry on kind of lighthearted conversations, and you may get into, you know, like I said, you know, a conversation about, you know, a guy says, "My son's a left-handed pitcher, whatever, can you give him some tips about pitching," whatever. So usually just kind of lighthearted conversations. But there are those times that when you're at a field where the fans are right on top of you, and there will be, you know, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20, however many it may be, fans that come to the game to do nothing more than drink beer and heckle fans. I mean, and heckle players. And when you get a situation like that, the first usually 2 or 3 innings is not too bad. They tell you how much you stink and various other, you know, phrases like that. But usually by the 5th or 6th inning, after you know, a little time has passed, they start feeling more comfortable. I mean, the language can get downright abusive and vulgar, and I mean, and nobody wants to hear it. Not the fans sitting around them, not you yourself as a player, and it can really start to wear on and grate on your nerves, really.
Jim, a lot of these new ballparks, they're right. The fans are right there because they want to sell the game. What considerations, when you were looking at the design and putting together the new Cincinnati ballpark, did you bear in mind when placing the bullpens? You put them in the outfield.
Well, Bob, the first thing you want to do is take care of the fans, because the fans are the most important thing for baseball. You don't get to play the game without the fans, and what the fans want to do is they want to be as close to the field as they can, as close to the dugouts and the bullpens, so they're close to the players. And I think when we designed ours, we certainly didn't want the fans to be able to reach over and touch the players, but we want them close enough so they can be on top of them and be part of the game.
You know, somebody, guys, has to think about the players, though, in this also. I think fan behavior, to a large degree, has gotten way out of hand here. The price of admission does not entitle a fan to do something and act in a way that would get him arrested out on the street. And I think we're seeing that happen more and more. And John pointed out, it's not just the players. How about if I take my 9-year-old daughter to a game and she has to be subjected to abuse that somebody's directed at John Rocker? It's not right. You know, I feel bad for the good fans at these games, too, because too many of the louses are ruining experience for everybody.
But I think, Ron, I think a lot of the pressure should be on the security people of the ballparks to make sure that, you know, people don't get away with the profanity or drinking too much. And I think most ballparks today have done a real good job of security. Not all of them, but most of them have.
Well, we hear the same, though, ballparks. We talked to a number of players in the last day since this incident in Oakland. We hear San Francisco. Everybody, Jim, everybody mentioned the new Philadelphia ballpark with the tiered bullpens. Is that a problem there?
Well, people say it is a big problem. I personally haven't been there to see it, but I think whenever you have an issue that becomes a problem in a specific ballpark, I think it's up to that ball club to look at it and see what adjustments they can make to help solve it.
I think the good fans have to take some responsibility here, too. Instead of, you know, no one wants to confront these bullies, so they pay all this money for their seat and they get up with their family and move somewhere else. That's ridiculous. Find a security person. Don't ask questions. You know, the teams have a right to eject people. Give them their money back. Throw the louts out so the rest of us can enjoy the ball game.
All right, John Rocker, I'd pay my 15 bucks or whatever, 25 bucks to sit down close at one of these new ballparks. I can almost reach out and touch you. What am I allowed to say to you before you really think I'm stepping over the line as a fan?
You know, really just the general stuff. If you want to talk about, you know, how your team's going to beat my team, how I'm going to give it up and your team's going to beat me or whatever, that's all well and fine. You kind of, you know, come to expect that. But really, you know, over the years in my, you know, 5+ years in the big leagues so far, you know, I've seen a lot of that. And if fans want to do that, I honestly, you know, enjoy that kind of bantering back and forth. And if a fan wants to tell me something kind of funny and do it in a clean, you know, wholesome family kind of atmosphered way, you know, I'll sit there and kind of chuckle and laugh at what he has to say. It's the fan that wants to sit there, and I was reading an article today in USA Today that one writer in USA Today, his comment was that media coverage has gotten so extensive on ball players. People know personal things about ball players' lives, whether it's, you know, kids, family members, that kind of thing, personal problems and that kind of thing. And a lot of times fans want to come to the ballpark with that knowledge and use that knowledge to attack fans. And when you start getting personal into some guy's personal life, you know, whether it's a marital problem, whether it's a problem with a child, whether it's a problem with a drinking problem or a drug problem or something like that, you want to get into a guy's personal life, and it's personal problems that everybody has, you know, everybody has, including fans. When you want to start, you know, broadcasting that publicly, you know, over you know, I guess an entire section of fans, you know, to bullpens, you know, a player's teammates and that kind of thing, those are the kind of things that really push a guy's buttons. And you know,
it happened to David.
Really what make incidents? Yeah, what make incidents break out like you saw in Oakland the other night?
David Wells a few years ago pitching in Cleveland. His mother had just died, and you know, and they're all over him about his late mother. Hey, I'm not defending what the pitcher in Oakland did. You know, he should be suspended for a long time. He should have a criminal charge against him. He should lose a lot of money in a civil suit. But it irks me that the fans who provoked this get away with it, because that just should not happen. This is a two-way street here, and in almost all these cases, I'm going to defend the player and go after the fan.
Should what did the fans say, Ron, to provoke it? What did the fans say to provoke it, Ron?
You know, I'm guaranteeing you he said something or did something. I can't believe Francisco would just pick up a chair and throw it in the stands for no reason. And I'm not defending his behavior. Don't get me wrong here. But somebody did something in that bullpen to provoke this. Nobody just goes crazy like that for no reason.
I'm siding with you, Ron. I'm siding with you, Ron. I've been in plenty of those bullpens all over the country. I've heard the jesting by the fans. That's okay, and the kind of bantering that you kind of come to expect. And I've also heard, the way out of line fan this basically verbally abusing players, which nobody in any line of work, deserves to hear when they're at their place of business trying to earn a living, which, when it comes right down to it, a ball player in the uniform at a baseball field is trying to earn a living, put food on his table and food on his family's table, and I don't care, what kind of job you've got, nobody deserves to hear that at their place of business. And, coming up through the minors, players that habitually, got in fights with fans, got in fights with teammates, got in fights with coaches, those kind of players were weeded out. So for a player like Frank Francisco to get to the major leagues, he evidently was not one of those kind of players who habitually had that kind of short fuse to constantly get in fights with players, constantly get in fights with fans. If he had have, he would have been gone by A-ball. He evidently is a guy that has made it through the system, has not been blackballed as, a discipline problem and that kind of thing. So for a guy like that and for the entire bullpen to have reacted like you saw Doug Brocail react and a couple other guys react, and Frank Francisco, and by any means, I've been abused by fans, probably more than more than my fair share. Have never thought in my wildest dreams to do something physically to a fan as I'm on the field and there in the stands. So I definitely 100% do not condone the actions of Frank Francisco. I think it's kind of an act of lunacy.
It's just frightening how courageous people get when they're nameless, faceless, in a mob scene. These people wouldn't think of accosting these players out on the street or if they were one-on-one. But when they're drunk and in a big crowd, hey, everybody has a lot of courage. It's got to stop. There's got to be more security somehow.
Well, the point I'm trying to make, excuse me, the interview I saw, I guess, with the person who was accosting the game the other night, he said, simply, we were just saying to Frank Francisco, we were just saying how our team was going to beat their team, how he was going to get the loss and that kind of stuff. I don't know why he threw the chair. I've been in those situations. I can pretty much, probably give you 3 or 4 phrases in a nutshell, probably what the fans said to Frank Francisco. For Frank Francisco to get to the big leagues, he was not blackballed as an aggressive player, or he wouldn't have made it past A-ball.
There are several versions several versions out there of what happened last night.
Yeah, he is not an angry, aggressive player, I guarantee you. He wouldn't have made it past A-ball. So for him to be where he is, he had to get set off in a pretty big way to react the way he did.
John Rocker, thanks for joining us. Best of luck with your rehab. And Jim Bowden, always good to see you. And Ron Cook, appreciate your stopping by.